I wanted to reach out to you and we can meet and have the opportunity to talk a little bit about you and about your journey and your businesses, because I know that you've had a bunch up to now, or a few, and we've met a few times around meetups here around Vancouver. So just a friendly intro. Tell me a little about how you started into the business and passions that you had around it, and maybe a little bit through the main initiatives that you had up to this point.
Sure. Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Sean. If you haven't seen me or got in contact with me, my background comes from doing sales. So I spent a majority of my professional career, doing sales. I started off doing B2B and door-to-door sales for TELUS. So this was back in 2014. We were a third-party marketing firm that got outsourced by TELUS. Essentially, they wanted to outsource their sales team and efforts. So did that for a couple of years, became good at selling to customers, handling objection, identifying, what's their unique value proposition. And I trained a lot of sales agents during my time as well, during my tenure there. But, in late 2015, I got really tired of the bureaucracy of the corporate sales environment. So that's when I took two of my colleagues and we started our own startup. So my first venture was called Morphus.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
The VR one, right? That was the VR.
Yeah. So that's like eons ago. Yeah, it feels like eons ago. But essentially, we took 3D models from architectural design and we imported it into a game engine, which is Unity. So back then, VR was very hot, very new, very hype, and we wanted to essentially pioneer full 3D walkthrough on mobile. So most 3D walkthrough are done on PC tethered devices like Vive, Oculus. We wanted to do it on mobile. So, had a bit of traction, and we got into a accelerator program in Shanghai late 2017 called China Accelerator. So China Accelerator is under the venture arm of SOSV, which is based in San Francisco. But they typically invest companies through their accelerator program. So they have Hacks, which is hardware-only accelerator in Shenzhen. But I always wanted to check out China back then because I heard a lot about it. People talk about China as like a gold mine, like a business rush. And Shanghai is essentially, for a lot of people, especially expats and people coming there in and out to work, center of the universe, so to say. Yeah. So we got there, we just packed our bags and we started going. And went through the program, met some awesome people, mentors, and Shanghai was just overall an incredible city to live and work in. But at the same time, what we realized was that we had a lot of, I wouldn't say flags, but we had signs that the market was not picking up, especially for virtual reality. Yeah. Anyone hasn't been to China, there's tons of business doing B2B VR applications. And by the time we got into China, apparently a lot of Chinese investors already had, bad taste for VR companies.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, since they invested before and, they got burned by a lot of companies that didn't end up doing well.
But was one of the main reasons for you to go to China to get investment or just to tiptoe in the market and just to see how the market is ready for the product?
A little bit. So one of the reasons that we wanted to go to China in the beginning was because I feel for very innovative or forward-thinking technology, Vancouver was really hard to, adopt this sort of technology. Yeah. We spoke to property developer, architects, architectural firm around town when we started off in Vancouver, but they were very content with what they already have. They have a lot of 3D rendering software. They have a lot of schematics that they used to show clients. There wasn't really a need for them to use VR to help, make the whole engagement a lot more immersive. So that was the reason why we thought maybe there's an opportunity outside of Vancouver, which is in China, because, the stigma with China is that everyone is more forward thinking, it's faster paced. People are more willing to try out new technology. Yeah. But I think, throughout this journey, I would say one of the pitfalls that, I've seen and coming from my first venture, I wouldn't call myself a serial entrepreneur, but, I do have a lot of experiences as a founder in which I recognize at the beginning for my first startup, there was a lot of sentimental value attached to it. And I keep stressing the fact that, when you shift from enterprise sales into a startup, it's very dangerous, because back then when you were a sales agent, you just keep convincing yourself that if I'm not selling well enough, that's the reason why people are not buying my product.
Yeah.
Because as a salesman, you're training that mentality that doesn't matter what I have on my plate, I have to sell this thing.
Yeah.
But the problem with that going to a startup is that, if you have initial blowbacks or rejections from your customer or your market, you wouldn't intuitively, you would think maybe your sales ability comes into question, when in reality, it's actually, maybe there's actually no product market fit, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have a solution to a problem that didn't exist. So it took us a while to find out that the hard way, because, a lot of people read about Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. It's all this, I wouldn't say misinformation, but you know how the whole startup, the picture painted for a lot of entrepreneurs is that, at the beginning, people don't get it, but you just have to keep going. You have to keep pushing, keep persisting.
Yeah, like the revolutionary style of product, right?
Yeah,
like those two products. There's one that fixes a need that exists already and it's identified, and the other one, the Apple one, where we're gonna show the world what they need. And you're saying that a lot of us or a lot of startups think like Apple, like no, what I have, it's amazing. They're gonna realize
at the beginning, I could say it's a bit of ignorance. We would always think that when you start up in your first company, you have that ego and you have that sentiment attached to it. You're like, if people don't get it, they're not forward thinking enough. It's not because there's a problem with my product. So around 6 months into the accelerator program, my previous co-founder and CTO, he decided that VR wasn't going to pick up, so he decided to move on to another project. So it was a really hard time, because we have to face the reality that if we don't have any capacity to productize, to actually build our product roadmap, then we have to resort to being a service-based business, right? Because we don't have the in-house technical capability to actually keep building out our product. So I was just in a tough place. And, at that moment, I think coincidentally, I think the summer of 2018, my current co-founder, Vincent, actually reached out to me. I said, hey, I'm working on something here. Would you want to come in and actually partner up? And I said, yeah, for sure. So that's when we started building out. The first project was Locus. So Locus is essentially a geospatial AR application. So we thought to combine our shared resources and knowledge to actually build, because Vincent is coming from a very map-based, location-based application side. And I come from a 3D visualization for my previous startup. So we thought to combine the two and actually deploy a geospatial AR application targeting urban planners, property developers. Essentially what the app does is you can hold up your phone or smart device at a location and you can see a 3D model of a building superimposed on an empty plot of land. Just to give people more spatial awareness for exteriors and building construction. But soon enough we decided there wasn't a need for AR, unfortunately. So we kind of went back to the drawing board and said, okay, there's actually a good use for location-based application. So what we do at Matador is essentially consolidate all key project information on a very intuitive yet easy to navigate map-based dashboard that allows multiple parties to come in and share data. And we have seen pretty good amount of success. We have been working with a lot of energy producers. And ever since the whole oil and gas market downturn, we decided to kind of go back to the drawing board and actually look at, okay, maybe we should focus on the environmental side of things, because even though environmental deal with oil and gas, they also deal with other clients as well, right? If you look at engineering projects, infrastructure, municipalities. And a lot of these projects actually need a good way to actually monitor, collaborate, and actually visualize location-based data. So that's kind of where we kind of wanted to wedge in after the whole oil and gas market downturn.
Towards BI and data structuring and stuff like that?
Right. And that's why we decided to go after clean tech and renewables.
And by the way, so this new venture, this new startup is a combination of what Vincent has been doing and what you have been doing. It's called Matador, right?
Matador.com.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So right now, we're very proud to actually announce that because of COVID, we're actually working with them to actually build out a pandemic monitoring system
Mm-hmm.
to help small business open a lot more safer, keep track of employee risk level, and everything done on a map-based visual. So they have different sort of heat maps, concentration, risk level associated with. And it's a very interesting application because we never thought that, there's actually a potential use case for Matador outside of energy and environmental. But the more we go along, we actually see there's larger companies from construction, emergency responses coming to us and actually looking at a partnership potentially, coming up. So I would say COVID is very unfortunate for businesses, but for us, it's actually doing a lot of wonders. We, through the project, we managed to grow our team to about 17 people now. And we just started, be able to partner up with Unity, MMP, be able to connect with a lot of health authorities and look at, different ways to actually make our product a lot more integrated.
Yeah.
So our goal in the future is actually make Matador very integrative and sector agnostic to a point that if there's any industry, any project that really requires a better visualization of location-based data, that Matador will be the go-to. Recently we actually got accepted into TechCrunch. So all of this.
I saw that. Oh my God, great.
Yeah, so it was a very competitive batch because in the past, how TechCrunch Disrupt work is that, especially for San Francisco, you only have the companies that are able financially to fly there to actually compete for Startup Battlefield, to actually fly there to attend. Yeah. But this year it was the first virtual event. So there was a lot more applicants for Startup Battlefield. I think they had over 1,000 companies apply and they only selected the top 20. So I was super happy we got selected. Yeah, and after we got in, it was super competitive, got to know the teams. I would say I met a lot of great people. There were 2 companies that were Y Combinator backed. Amazing people, actually. I connected with them and we still talk. But going through that entire process, I would say TechCrunch, I have to give a shout out to Nisha. She's the editor-in-chief for TechCrunch. And she actually helped us refine our pitch, flip the script, made us very, very fluent in terms of communicating what our startup does. Yeah. Because one of the problems we had before was that because we're targeting a very B2B niche market, we always have problem dumbing the messaging down. Yeah. But I think TechCrunch is amazing because obviously they work with a lot of startups for Startup Battlefield. So they were actually able to help us dumb down our pitch so that everyone in the audience can actually relate to the problem that we are addressing. Competed, it was a 5-day event this time. And in the first 4 days, 5 companies would present. And on the Thursday night, they actually select 5 companies to actually move into the finals. So we were extremely nervous. But I bet. In the end, we got selected, which was already a huge accomplishment itself because I told Vincent, my partner, that it doesn't really matter if we win Startup Battlefield or not, but be able to get into finals because in the finals, we get to pitch to an actual panel of tier 1 VCs. You have Accel, Y Combinator, Michael Siebel from Y Combinator was on the judge panel for the finals. Also Kleiner Perkins and also other reputable VCs. We managed to end up getting second place. Can't really complain because first place gets a cash prize, second place just gets recognition. But after TechCrunch, we had over 3,000 people coming to our website, and there was so much, inbounds with clients, venture capitalists. And for the first time, I actually saw there were people from construction that were actually inquiring about Matador, which was very surprising. So
this is a definite story of grit and perseverance and looking at the next milestone that really moves the needle. That's definitely what I'm seeing. Even your goal of, we got to get into the finals because this is what's going to happen. You knew exactly if we get there, that's exactly what's going to feed us with fuel to the next milestone. It wasn't like, let's just have users, it seemed that it was really strategic. Now tell me a little bit, what do you think makes a big difference in the mindset and in the approach of a founder or between founders when it comes to how they approach their business? What's the difference between an approach that gives the highest possible chance for someone to succeed with their startup against other people that approach it differently maybe, and which is kind of doomed to fail if they take that route? Like, what are the best tips that you would give someone to approach a startup starting it?
So two things. One, I would think is always listen to, always address your audience, always actually talk to, as many people as you can without trying to sell them in the beginning. The problem we have with Morphus was that we did a lot of things based on assumptions. Yeah. Now, the scary thing about assumption is that the more you assume, it goes into a very destructive cycle, because you assume something, you assume customer might like this without actually talking to customer. And a lot of startups, what they do is they build a product, like they focus on, I got to get a landing page up, I got to get a website, I got to get a logo up, I got to sell something.
That's what
I got to sell something tangible, but then they don't really identify if there's actually a problem worth solving. So I would say if I were to do it all over again, I would talk to as many, I would identify a demographic, or I would identify a pain point or a problem that exists in a particular industry. And I would talk to as many people as I can, from different roles within that industry, right? You have to actually map out, the entire persona journey. You have to talk to those people without selling them anything. You have to actually talk to them. Do as many interviews as you can in the beginning without trying to sell them. And second thing is, I would say stay focused.
Yeah.
And I think the dangerous thing about a tech founder is that because service-based business is so lucrative, you have a lot of cash coming in the beginning, but then it's always one-to-one, right? You have, you have to assign certain people to actually come in. There's man hours. You got to, do a lot of manual things with service-based work. And a lot of founders would actually convince themselves that, there's certain aspect of service-based work that I can productize later on. But then the more you focus on productizing for service-based work, you're actually ignoring a bigger market, because you shift mindset into, okay, I will productize certain features because one customer or several customer likes this.
Yeah.
But you're not doing it for the market. You're just doing it for those customers, which is very dangerous. And I think one of the key things is that you have to sometimes be able to give up service-based work or contract to focus on product, which I feel is really hard, because you're actually saying, buy to money.
Exactly.
If you want to actually become a high growth company, you have to stay focused. You have to actually focus on the product, focus on the market, focus on, I would say focus on the forest and not in the tree in front of you. That's how it was.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot. Definitely. I think that those are amazing advices. And as long as, even if they're being, they're being loudly mentioned about people that go through building a startup, and they always come back to this. It's like people just don't listen because the temptation is too big. That initial instant gratification, right, of making initial money, of getting approval of even a fake market that what you build is good, what you want to build is amazing, and people fall into that, right? You know what I've noticed? Founders are just people. They have the same struggles. They're looking for rent. They spend money on the same kind of things. Even more, sometimes they struggle because they have to let go certain things and prioritize a little bit differently, maybe. And one of my vision is to show that to people, is that, no, man, anybody can do it as long as you have the right mindset, the grit, and you have an idea in something that is your passion and your genius, something that you're really good at. But let's at least not allow the mindset to be a blocker here for you. If people believe that, you got to have money to do a startup, well, look how many didn't, right? Because you have to take the right approach, and you have to get the right resources in place, and there's so many resources out there. So thanks a lot for sharing that, man.